Right, in this class we'll be discussing about arrays. So just talking about the fundamentals of arrays. We'll be discussing about fundamentals of arrays in this particular class. And before we study about the arrays, we should know why actually we have to go for arrays. We have studied the different fundamental data types or preliminary data types such as integer data type, character, float, double, etc. So the disadvantage with these data types was only one element can be stored in those data types. For example, if you declare a variable, an integer variable called x, then you can store only one integer value in that particular variable x. We cannot store more than one values with the same name. We cannot store more than one value with the same name. So that was the disadvantages with the normal variables or the normal integer variables. So I'll take the help of diagram for explanation purpose, right? So now we are talking about arrays. One second. I'll just open the PDF. I hope you can see this. But before I go for this, so if we declare the normal variable like int a, so what it means here is a is an integer variable which can hold one element of type integer. One element of type integer. So when you write float x, x is a floating point type of variable which can hold only one element of type float. Now, if we want to store more than one element with the same name, then we go for arrays. That means you want to make use of the same name, but you want to store more than one element with the same name. Then we go for arrays. For example, if you want to store roll number of all the students in a classroom with the same name, then we go for using the array. You can make use of a array called roll numbers. You can make use of an array called roll numbers. So roll numbers is an array which is going to store or hold roll numbers of all the students in a classroom. That means the difference between this normal variable and array variable here is normal variable can hold only one element of type whatever is specified, whereas the array can hold more than one element of the particular type. So basically array can be defined like this. Array is a collection of elements of same data type. Collection of elements of same data type or similar data type. So that is what is an array. So when you talk about roll numbers, all the roll numbers of type are of type integer. All the roll numbers are of type integer. So array is basically a derived data type which is derived from the existing fundamental data types. So array is a derived data type or derived data structure which is nothing but the collection of elements of same type. All the elements in an array must be of same type. That is what is an array. So it is having certain characteristics or there are some properties of the array. So what are those properties? So when we talk about an array, it will satisfy certain properties. So that is we will use the same name as I told. We will use the same name for accessing all the elements of an array. Only one name will be there for the data type and that name will be used for accessing all the elements present within that array. And the array elements are stored in consecutive memory locations. The array elements are stored in consecutive memory locations. For example, if this is what is a memory location, if this is what is a memory location, right? And here you have declared an array int a of 5. That means for the variable a, this is nothing but declaration of the array variable. Here a is an array variable which can hold 5 elements. which can hold 5 elements of type integer. Now, how the memory will get allocated for this is, so somewhere in the memory allocation will begin for the variable a, and how many blocks it requires? It requires uh, 5 locations to hold the integer data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means from here to here the memory will get reserved. These many blocks will get reserved for the array A. That means this element refers to A of 0, this refers to A of 1, this refers to A of 2, this refers to A of 3, and this refers to A of 4. That means these are called as consecutive memory locations. Immediately one after the other, the array elements are stored in the consecutive memory locations. So say for example, if this is the address 100, the main memory address I am telling, the address location is 100, then the next address location will be 102, then it will be 104 and 106, and this is 108. The memory locations will be consecutive memory locations, and here the assumption is being made that the integer will take 2 bytes. The integer will take 2 bytes. With this assumption, this particular scenario is shown. So this is the meaning. All the array elements are stored in a consecutive memory locations. That's why this is categorized into the category of linear data structures. While studying about the classification of data structures, we have studied two types. Basically, we have studied what were the two types: the linear data structures and the non-linear data structures. So for linear data structures, the elements will be stored in consecutive memory locations. The elements will be stored in consecutive memory locations. Right? This is how the array elements are stored in consecutive memory locations. That's why this comes under linear data structure. But the linear data structure need not take the consecutive memory locations, as in case of linked list, which we will study later. See, linked list is also an example of linear data structure, but the memory may not be consecutive for them. The memory may not be consecutive for them, but the appearance is linear in nature. The appearance is linear in nature. So that we'll study later. But right now, for time being, let us concentrate only on the linear data structure array. Now, it stores elements in consecutive memory location. The next property is its name can be used as a pointer for the first array element. Its name can be used as a pointer for the first array element. That means when we have this array, so when we have this array, so what is the name for this array? Name for this array is A. So this name itself can be used as pointer for the first element. That means with this name A, this A is nothing but it is pointing to the first, always it will be pointing to the first element of the array. So how do we access first element of the array? By using name of the array, specifying the index value, and by default the name of the array will be pointing to the first element of the array. Name of the array will be pointing to the first element of the array. So that is one key property, and its size is always constant and not a variable. The size of the array is always fixed. It will not be changing during the execution of the program, because it is an example of static memory allocation. It is an example of static memory allocation. Now, when I declare this int a of 5, that means 5 elements of type integer. If one integer is taking 2 bytes, and how many integers are there? 5 integers. So 2 into 5 is equal to 10 bytes. So this is what is size of this array, and that is fixed. This is what is size of this array, and the size is fixed, and the size is fixed during the execution. Why? Because it is an example of static memory allocation. When you allocate the memory will not get altered during the execution. So very similar to support this fact, you can see the memory addresses, the example memory addresses what I have taken. For the first element, memory location is 100, then 2, 4, 6, and 8. So if you can see, it is totally assuming 10 bytes. starting from 100 and it is going up to 109. This shows just beginning address here, but in fact it is 2 bytes. How it is? 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109. So totally how many bytes are there? 10 bytes are there. This is how the array uh, elements are stored, and the size of the array is fixed. But while representing what we store, what we show is only the starting address of every element. Only the starting address for every location we will show. But it is implicit that always these memory locations are byte addressed. They are addressed by using byte. 0, 1, 2, 3. They are nothing but bytes. They are arranged in that increasing order. The bytes are numbered in the increasing order of the integers. So it does not perform bound checking, and that is our responsibility to do it. So what is bound checking here is we'll get some error called array index out of bound during the execution of the program. So for this array, the maximum address what you can access is a of, what is that address for the fourth element, and what is its address? Its address is 108 in this case. Its address is 108. But at some point of time, it is possible that due to some arithmetic error, you can access something like this a of 5. It is possible. The reserved array is only up to a of 4, but somewhere you are trying to access the fifth element or exactly the sixth number present within the array. So that produces an error. So that is called as there is no bound checking. What is the bound? This is the lower bound and this is the upper bound. So beyond this you should not access. Beyond this you should not access. That is what is the problem with the arrays. So is there a synchronization between whatever I am writing and explaining? Can someone respond? Are they getting synchronized audio and the explanation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I have powered on video also and sharing screen also, it requires more bandwidth. If any sort of disturbance is there, you kindly let me know. If there is something which is not getting synchronized, I'll power off the video. Right? Now let us see different types of arrays. So when you talk about arrays, basically there are two types of arrays: one-dimensional arrays and multi-dimensional arrays. So usually multi-dimensional arrays in the sense 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, and so on. They are multi-dimensional array. And whatever usual arrays we have been using till now, all are examples of one-dimensional arrays. What is one-dimensional array? It is nothing but the group of same type of data elements which are accessed by using the single name. And the elements present within that array are having same data type. And how do we represent it? Just by using any name. That means whatever name you want to give and square brackets to square brackets, opening square bracket and closing square bracket. So this is used to indicate that we are dealing with array or we are declaring the array. So an example for one-dimensional array can be just a group of integer elements 2, 5, 6, 1, 9. So all these are examples for an one-dimensional array. Similarly, two-dimensional array, we'll be using the same name whatever you use. We'll be using same name whatever we use for the same for the one-dimensional, but depending on the dimension of the array what we are using, those many square brackets or subscripts we have to specify. So this indicates subscript for the first dimension. This indicates subscript for the second dimension. If you are talking about two-dimensional array, then we have to specify subscript 2 times. So two-dimensional in the array is nothing but, it is nothing but rows and columns. So there are 2 rows in this one and 2 columns in this one. So this is just an example for this. What is that? There are group of strings which are containing 2 rows and 2 columns. 2 rows and 2 columns is an example for two-dimensional array. Right? So similarly, we can have 4-dimensional, 3-dimensional, and so on. Now, how do we represent the linear arrays in memory, or how do we represent one-dimensional arrays in memory? What is the way to represent one-dimensional arrays in memory? So I think this already I have explained here. This one. This is what is nothing but the representation of one-dimensional arrays. Now next that bit is coming here. And I'll cover it once again. So how do we represent one-dimensional arrays? We make use of an array name. For example, if you consider this an integer array, what is the name of this array? ARR is name of the array. And what is the size of this array? It can hold 5 elements of type integer. It is assumed that it is an integer array. And what are the elements within the array? 2, 6, 7, 3, 8 are the elements present within the array. Now when see here, this diagram whatever I have shown is vertical. This is just vertical I have shown just now. And here in the text they have just shown it horizontally. Both are same. No difference in that one. And whatever these are called as array indices, they are called as array indices, or the identifiers for each and every element of the array. And these are the memory locations reserved for the array. So here the assumption is being made from 6000 onwards. But what was the assumption that I made here? It is 100 onwards. So any assumption you can do. That is, first element 2 is stored at the location 6000 and its access specification is array of 0. That means we are assuming that the array indexing will start from 0. In programming terminology, we assume that the array indexing will start from 0. That is array of 0. Next, and the assumption, one more assumption being made here is integer will take 2 bytes of memory location. Integer will take 2 bytes of memory location. That means if it is starting address for this is 6000, then the next address is 6001. 6002 is starting address for this. Next it is 6003, 6004, 6005, 6006, 6007. This is how it is stored. In fact, what happens here is 6000 is the starting address, means this 2 is stored by using 2 bytes of memory location. I'll just partition that and I'll show you this. These are 2 bytes. These are again 2 bytes. This is how actually the array is. This is how actually the array is. That array, I'll just try to show it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is how these elements are stored. What is the starting address? This is 6000. Next 6001, 6002, 6003, 6004, 5, 6, 7, and 8. These are individual bytes now. These are addresses of individual bytes now. How we are showing individual bytes here? 2 bytes are stored at a time. By combining 2 bytes we have shown, but here individual memory locations are being shown. Individual memory locations are being shown. Now by using 2 bytes, byte number 6000 and byte number 6001, by using these 2 bytes, the element 2 we are representing. Now what I will do for understanding purpose, I'll erase this. What happens? 6000 and 6001, these 2 bytes are reserved for 2. Here explicitly it is not shown because the assumption is size of the integer is 2 bytes. Similarly, 6002 and 6003, these 2 bytes will be used by element 6. These 2 bytes will be used by element 6. 4 and 5 will be used by element 7. 4 and 5 will be used by element 7. 6, one second. Okay, 6 and 7 will be used by element 3. Next, 8 and 9, one more here. 8 and 9 will be used by element 8. This is how it is drawn. In fact, actually they will use 2 consecutive memory locations, and this is the actual memory diagram. This is the actual memory diagram. By writing this, what they have written here is just erase every odd number. Just erase every odd number, and this is what we have got, the above scenario. This is what is this scenario what they have shown. That is every array element here. Assumption is being made that integers will take 2 bytes. Right? That is what the explanation here is, and this is how we access each and every element. The formula. If you want to access any of the element, any of the kth element, B, this is the formula. What is B? Is the base address of the entire array. What is the base address in this case? 6000 is the base address. One second. The base address of the array in our case is 6000. Right. So the simple formula for accessing each and every location, each and every element here is, this is called as base address of the entire array, that is B, that is fixed, plus. So what we assume here is W as width, or the word size, or the size taken by one integer. The size assumed by an integer is nothing but W. That means we are assuming in our case integers or word length is 2 bytes, and base address here is 6000 star. K indicates the index identifier, or the index value of the element which you want to access. Index value of the element which you want to access. For example, if you want to access address of this element 7, what is its index value? Its index value is 2. So that I will write it as 2. In fact, in mathematical terms, I will remove this. Yes. I want to get the address of the element with the index value 2. With the index value 2. So give that index value to 6000. So just try to solve this. 6000 plus 2 into 2 is how much? 4. What is the result? 6004 is the address of the element identified by the index 4 and identified by the index 2. So identified by the index 2, the address for that element is 6004, and as per the formula also we have got 6004. That means these two are fixed. What is the size of the array? These two are fixed. The word length of the machine, or the size taken by the integer, plus the base address. These two are fixed, and only this k will be varying. That means for which index you want to get the address, just specify that index value. Right now, here you can see some points are given in the textbook. That is, what is the base address? It is just an address of the first element of the entire array. That is called as a base address. How our array elements are stored? So they are stored in consecutive memory locations. So what actually is a traversal? When we have an array, visiting each and every element of the array at least once is called as a traversal. That means we want to go across each and every element, that is called as traversal. When we have this array, I want to visit this element, next this element, this element, this and this. That means just going across or traversing or visiting each and every node once is called as a traversing of an array. So what is the procedure for traversal? The simple algorithm for this here is, what we do here is, as we know, every algorithm will have a name called traverse, and the which array you want to traverse and what is the size of that particular array. So every algorithm will start and stop. That is fixed. Now we will initialize I to 0. So why we are initializing I to 0? Because we are assuming that the array indexes will start with 0, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are the indices. Let us assume 2, 6, 7, 3, 8. The same elements I'll type 2, 6, 7, 3, 8. 2, 6, 7, 3, and 8. So how do we traverse an array? By using name. What is the name of this array? Given here, name of the array being assumed is ARR. Array is name of the array. And what is its size? Its size is 5. There are 5 elements within the array. Its size is 5. Start set I equal to, that means I have to begin with 0th element. this element you have to go on traversing. While traversing, what we are doing here is, in this case, simply we are accessing that array, accessing that element, that is array of I. I is 0, array of 0 is 2, array of 1 is 6, and so on. We're just trying to access those elements. What we do, we repeat the steps 4 and 5 while I is less than size. That means you can perform these steps from 0 to 4. If you go 5, what happens? We don't have any element there. We don't have any element. What we do in step 4? Simply access that element. While accessing, you may have to print that also. If you want, you can print also. Then again, what we do? We increment the value of I. These two steps we are repeatedly doing. These two steps, that is steps 4 and 5, we are doing repeatedly. What? Access the ith element, increment the value of I. Because what is in step number 5, what we are doing? We are just incrementing. Then again access this element. After accessing, what you do? Increment the value of I. After incrementing, again access this, access that. Then again increment. Then again what you do? Access that. Then again increment. So this is what we do. This is a simple procedure for traversing or array traversal. Array traversal. So this is one sample program for explaining that. Things will be clear with a simple program. What is this? A program to traverse and print the elements of the array. So as I said, we're simply going from the beginning of the array and reaching up to end. And in during this process, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to print the elements of the array. We're just trying to print the elements of the array. So include the required header files. And this is the prototype of the function what we are using. What the prototype says? Traverse is a function which will take two parameters. What are the two parameters? First one is a pointer, nothing but the address of the array in this case. First one is a pointer, and second one is an integer data. First one is a pointer, and second one is an integer data. That means in this case, we are taking size of the array. What is the size of this array? Now, as we know, the program execution will always start from the main function. Program execution will always start from the main function. Within main, what we are trying to do, we are just declaring an integer array. So I'm just explaining this line. Please concentrate what this line says. ARR is an integer array which holds 5 different elements. This is declaration part and this is initialization part. The declaration and initialization both we are doing together. The declaration and initialization both we are doing together. After this statement, what is the impact in the memory? See here, this in technical terms, what it is called as specifying array values at the time of writing a program, that is referred to as compile time initialization. That means whenever you compile this program, right, the array will get declared. Along with that, initial values will be assigned to that during the compilation only. Now, what is the impact of this? So an array is getting declared. Right, this is an array. What is the name of the array? ARR is the name of the array. ARR is the name of the array. And what is its size? Its size is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as usual, we know that index values start from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what are the elements that we are giving? Already we are initializing the array with some of the values. What are the values? 2, 6, 7, 3, 8. 2, 6, 7, 3, 8. Only the outcome after this first line. Next, we are taking an integer variable n and give it a value of 5 because size of the array is 5. Some variable is being assumed. This will simply clear the screen. Value of n is equal to 5. Right? Now press any key to perform array traversal. That means you want to traverse array from beginning to end. and display its element. What we are trying, we are traversing the array and displaying the values of the array. So that means that entered key will be read in this particular getCH method. GetCH means get a character. Wait for a character press from the keyboard. Once the user presses any key from the keyboard, then the next statement will be executed within the program. This function waits for a key press from the keyboard. And next we are calling the traverse function. We are calling the traverse function. So the traverse function is being called and control will get transferred to the definition of the traverse function. So once this statement gets executed, what happens? The control will get transferred to the definition of the traverse function. That means program execution will shift to definition of the traverse function. And here we are calling the function. Here we are calling the function. That means now this entire body should execute. Body of the function will execute. After completion, then again control will return back to the caller. Right? Now let us see the definition. Here we are calling traverse function by passing this array and this size, because n is nothing but 5, that is size of the array, and array this is nothing but an entire array only we are passing to the definition. Basically what this is containing now, a double r a y, this is a double r, both are same. Here you can use any name. These are just names for the formal parameters. These are just names for the formal parameters, right? That is the array. Now this a double r a is being assumed as a r r a y, both are same. Don't get confused. Now it's just for our explanation purpose, it is being assumed as a r r a y, this array only, no change in that one. And what is the value present in size? In size we have 5. Why 5? Because here we are passing 5 as a parameter. This will take this place and n will assume this place, and n will assume this place. Now let us see how the array elements are accessed, how the array gets traversed. For declare a variable called I, and how the for loop usually works. We know that the for loop has 3 parts: initialization part, condition checking, and modifier part or incrementation. Modifier part can be either incrementing the variable or decrementing the variable depending on the type of task we are doing. Now in this case, the modifier part is incrementing the value of the variable I. So initialize I to 0, then check the condition whether I is less than 5. Is it true? Because size is what? Size is 5. Size is equal to 5. 1 second, I'll close the window. Size is equal to 5. Right? I is less than 5, this condition is true. I is less than 5 and this condition is true. Once the condition is true, we will enter into the for loop and execute the statements present within for loop. So in for loop, we have only one statement. What is that? Simply we are printing the value of the elements present in the specified index value. That is what it will print. It will print as array of 0. That means here I will try to write array of, what is percentage d? Percentage d is the format specifier for this argument. So this will assume its place and this will take this place. So what is the value of I? That means array of 0 is equal to, what is array of I? I is 0. What is array of 0? Array of 0 is what? 2. So it will print 2 like this. And see here we have backslash n. After printing this, the cursor will go to the next line and it will be blinking here. Cursor will go to the next line and it will be blinking here. After executing the statements within the for loop, what we do next step is increment the for loop. Increment the variable I. So I will be incremented to 1. After the incrementing, again we have to check the condition whether 1 is less than 5. Yes, it is true. If it is true, then only we will enter into the for loop. After entering the for loop, what we are printing? That is ARR of what is percentage D. It will get the value of I now. What is the value of I in this case? I is 1. Array of 1 is equal to what is present in array of 1? In array of 1 we have 6. It will print as 6. Next, I will be incremented. I becomes 2. If 2 is less than 5, yes, true. Enter and again display. What is that? What will display now? Array of 2 is equal to what is present in array of 2? 7. Similarly, it will display array of 3 and array of 4. And after that, the value of I will be 5. And when the value of I is 5, the condition fails, we will come out of the for loop. We will come out of the for loop. And now we have successfully displayed all the elements of the array. Once after completion of this body of the traverse function, definition of the traverse function, the control will again transfer back to the caller. That means the program execution will continue from the next statement after the function call. The program execution will continue from the next statement after the function call. So after this function call, what is the next statement? Next statement is get ch. Simply we are waiting for one character. Once we enter one character from the keyboard, the program execution will stop. This is one sample output what is shown here, right? So what I will do here is I will try to give the demonstration of this program. Are we connected till now? Is there any problem? I hope no network issues.
No, sir.
Okay. Right, this is the program what we have discussed just now. We're trying to access elements of the array. Just run the program and I'll try to show you the output. Just press any key to perform array traversal and display its elements. I'll just press enter. So array elements are displayed as expected. And again, there is a method get ch function which is expecting one key from the keyboard. I'll go to program and I'll show you why it is stopping here. See here, after the definition of the function, get ch is a method. So what is the purpose of this? Get a character from the keyboard. Wait for a character from the keyboard. Now you have to, why it is actually used? It is actually used so that you can be able to see the output screen. So that you have to, you should be able to see the output screen, else it will get erased. So once you press one more key, one second, yes, come out and the program execution will stop completely, right? So before this gets here, just for understanding purpose, what I will do, I'll print one statement here, print f. I'm just trying to change the function. What is that? The array elements are displayed successfully. The array elements are displayed successfully. One statement is being printed. Okay, that means after the traverse definition of the traverse function, what happens? Here the traverse function will be called, the control will get transferred to the definition of the function will be executed, again control will go back and the execution will be continued from the next statement following the function call. What is the next statement after this? One print we are doing, then we are expecting one character, right? I'll just print enter. Yes, as you can see here, the array elements are displayed successfully. And now it is waiting for a character. That is how the program execution will take place as in case of arrays.